Well, I hope you like your Undead in red, because this is the red period, the Warhammer Armies Undead supplement for 4th edition for the early 90s, designed by Jervis Johnson, the stories by Bill King, illustrations by John Blanche, Wayne England and Mark Gibbons, with the cover by David Gallagher. And I have the wonderful opportunity, thank you to David Schooley in Florida, the US, for giving me the opportunity to paint an entire Undead army based on the models for this particular edition as a commission through EAVY Studios. So thank you again, David. It's been an absolute pleasure putting the models together, painting them up for you, and then now showcasing them in some videos. Okay, well, let's get underway with this particular spear-wielding wight, and we're going to start with a Vallejo dark green base. This is a game colour Vallejo paint that I'm using here, just thinning it out on my wet palette and giving it a good base coat of that. Now, using Chaos Black as well, I'm going to black in all the armour, all the chainmail, the spear tip, anything that's going to be metallic, I'm going to black out with that. And then I used some beige, Vallejo beige, as a base coat for all the bone colours, using the wall colours snakebite leather for the spear shaft, and then I'm going to go through and with some somber grey painting the sort of the hair tassel that's hanging off the top of the spear there. Then using some brown ink watered down, I'm going to now give all the bone a wash, and maybe done twice just to make sure that everything's defined well. Adding some yellow to the dark green will be the highlights that I'll be using for the armour, and any of the boots or any other cloth that I need to do. Using beige again with a very fine brush, we're going to paint a line that will be part of his detail on the bottom of his loincloth. To highlight the skulls and all the bone parts of the model, I'm going back with some beige, and I'm going to use some ivory as well to pick out any details on the parts of the bones. All the black areas are painted now with some bolt gun metal mixed with some chainmail. I used some dead flesh, and just with a old brush, sort of just dry brushed over the top of the spear half, because it's got all that nice wood grain in there to pick out for the details. Then using some original armor wash, just watering that down, going over all the metallics now. Everything's painted metallic, give that a good wash to just give it more depth. When it's dry, I use some mithril silver to pick out any highlights. Okay, so now that this model is going to be primarily black, I just went through and gave it a nice base coat of Chaos Black. I then highlighted the areas of the cloth using a dark blue-grey. I applied some blood red to the helmet and to the feet. I gave a wash to the red with some gore red. For the flames that are in freehand, I used beige as my base colour, and very carefully lined in some flame markings, and just took my time. And then when they were done, I just got some yellow ink and just mixed it with a little touch of orange, and then just applied that to the base of those flames. The next white will have a mixture of purple and bone. So I took just some purple from Vallejo model colour and used that as a base to do all the parts of his clothing, giving it a good wash just to give it more depth, and added more richness to the purple. I added some wolf grey to the purple for the highlights there as well. This particular white was being mainly black and red, black being mostly for its armour, It's going to have a lot of metallics on there, and the red was just for its boot and for the lower part of its cloak. I added sunburst yellow to the red for its highlights, so you had a nice warm orange there that you could use to just apply to the raised areas on the cloak, and then just to enrich that further with some red glaze and some red washes, just to give it more depth and to make that red really nice and striking. Covered previously, I'm going to cover all the parts that are in metallic or in gold with those particular paints, and then give them washes accordingly. So the black will be given some black armor wash, and the gold will be given some brown washes, and then highlighted appropriately. Usually the gold is highlighted with ivory, things like that, ivory or white. I like to highlight just bits of the gold there just to give it, add a bit of sparkle. There was some nice interesting detail here on the very butt end of his sword, so that's going to be like an eye marking in freehand, and there were some gemstones encrusted on the top part of his sword there, so I'm just lining those in, dotting them with some green ink, adding some black to the green ink, and using that to add those reflection areas on the gemstones. Using some enchanted blue, I painted in the pupil of the eye, and that will pretty much finish our last white. Now we're going to the shields, the fun part. Lots of freehand here. So for the first one, we need to create this sort of very rich, warm sunset, or it looks like it's on fire. I don't know, but there's a lot of oranges and reds here, yellows, and I sort of had to go back and forth, trying to find the right transition between the colors, making sure there was a nice yellow band in the center, and then using Chaos Black very carefully with a fine brush, started putting in just a framework of the crypt. That was going to be the central feature of this painting on the shield. And once that was done, adding some grey to highlight areas where you could just see the outline of certain parts of the crypt, and then doing these very fine lines of bats that are flying in the background just to create some really spooky atmosphere. For the second two, I added some flame marks for one of them, and as that was drying, I added some grey mixed with white to add this moon as a central part of the shield, and then I had to paint in this castle in the background, which was interesting, really fun to do. And I think the secret to this is just taking your time. You can sort of just draw in and pencil in with your brush. Even if you use a Sharpie, that's fine, and mark out your designs initially and then paint over them. On this particular other shield with the flame marking, we had to paint in a skull. Now, these are a little bit more technically difficult. You could use transfers if you wanted to. I just took my time step by step, just painting the skull in until I was pleased and happy with the final result, which you'll see in just a moment, guys. And here they are in all their glory. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed painting these for David as part of my commission, and I look forward to painting the next 4 to complete the full set of 8. Now, if you're interested to learn more about the history of the Undead and how it was painted during the 90s, then I recommend to check out Dave Perry's blog, LostDecadeMiniatures.com, and read for yourself. Also, I have an EAVY-led painting tutorial that's part of Patreon, so if you want to learn how to paint with me, then please check out the tiers available. Check out the podcast, and of course the Herohammer Fanzine. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. See you again in the next one. Take care until then. Bye-bye.